مساء الخير، السلام عليكم، صباح الخير,
Good evening, good morning,
good evening,
good evening.
peace and blessings, wherever you're tuning in from the world.
تحياتي لكم.
Starting shortly. للمنضمين معنا من العالم العربي.
For those joining us, we will give them, we'll give an opportunity for people to join us. Before we start speaking in dialogue within the framework of extreme importance.
أنا اسمي ديما محمود.
My name is Dima Mahmoud.
برحب بكم.
I welcome you.
وحتم الجزء الجاي باللغة الإنجليزية.
And I'll say this in the English for those joining us, but dialogue mainly will be in Arabic.
Welcome. Thank you. My name is Dima Mahmoud. I am a grateful member of a growing culture family. We are here today to learn about seeding power, seeding sovereignty in Palestine. Learning from UAC, amazing work that they are doing, and get truth about what is happening in Palestine. We are hearing many narratives from many directions. Straight from the ground, from the people on the ground, living, fighting, surviving, resilient. Thank you so much for being here. I want to take a moment to acknowledge our partners, Agroecology Fund, for their continuous support and for efforts in supporting the food sovereignty movement. I thank our interpreters who will make it possible for it to be translated and related to so many people, especially AGC's family that is not Arabic speaking. The reminder that those on the ground have a voice, and we are here to hear it. We will start with a brief video to lay the foundation, and then we will go to the panelist section. Thank you so very much. If you are tuning in from Facebook or YouTube, there is a translation option on the Zoom link. We will put the Zoom link in your comments. Please join us on the Zoom so you are able to hear the translations in the language that you prefer, and that you can engage directly with the amazing people we have here sharing their efforts. كمان مرة لإخواننا وأهلنا وأعزائنا.
Again, to say this for our guests who are hearing us in Arabic, there are parts of the discussion that are going to be in English, two parts in particular. So you can join us with the Zoom link, where you can have interpretation at the bottom of the screen. You can go to the globe sign. You can click there to select a language of your choice. And I'd like to thank you. And now,
please play the video. Please bear with us.
This is the story of a tired Palestinian farmer, desperately clinging onto whatever joy he can still extract from his land and labor. This is the inspiring story of the Union of Agricultural Work Committees, which has supported him and countless other farmers for over 34 years. It is the bittersweet journey through land, which the Palestinian people love and to which they are deeply attached. Land that has been taken and stolen from them by Israel's occupation and annexation.
شكرا جوش.
Thank you, Josh.
لأول جزء من
For the first part of discussion, we have Mr. Fuad Abu Saif
to join us. سيد فؤاد، نبتدي بحقيقة
We can start.
في فلسطين اليوم
Let's speak about the situation in Palestine
وعلاقة الاحتلال
and the relation of the occupation
sovereignty
with the sea sovereignty
and its relation to all the other facets of Palestinian livelihood. Please tell us what is
شكرا ديما وشكرا جوش.
Thanks a lot, Dima and Josh. Would you like me to speak in Arabic or English? You can go ahead in Arabic. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all those who helped in producing this event by UAWC, which is one of the most important organizations in the agricultural sector, since it's connected to the land, the root of conflict with the occupier. These days, in Palestine, we live a state that is rare. We haven't witnessed since the Israeli occupation of Palestine. The Palestinian people are back to demand for their rights without any fragmentations. And since the beginning of Ramadan, the Israeli occupation always continue committing crazy mistakes. And this is what the occupation does. Since the beginning of Ramadan, they prevented the Palestinians and they placed blockades around Jerusalem and at the gates of Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is one of the holiest places for Muslims all over the world at such a sensitive time, which is Ramadan month, and trying to blackmail all the world. Jerusalem for the Palestinians mean a lot. It is, simply put, the DNA for Palestinians. So you cannot tamper with Jerusalem or play with it, or for the Israeli occupation to practice its policies in terms of Judaizing Al-Aqsa Mosque or the occupied cities. Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa are sensitive places. And at the same time, the occupation announced that, as it has been doing since 70 years, to confiscate Palestinian houses in Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in the occupied Jerusalem. And the Israeli court said that these houses will be confiscated and from Palestinians and given to Israeli Zionist settlers immigrating from different countries to occupy Palestinian property and houses. These two events are such a sensitive time, which is Ramadan time, added to hundreds or maybe thousands of provocation cases that the Palestinians encounter on daily basis at the hands of the Israeli racist state that practices racist, exclusively racist policies that even did not exist in apartheid South Africa or before the First or Second World War. The Palestinians are facing the risk of being killed on a daily basis. They are not allowed to access their land, to plant their land, to cultivate it, to protect their country. Their houses are demolished. Their land is confiscated for settlers. We don't know from where they came. And so this is a great injustice. Every day we hear difficult stories. The occupation is increasing its policies that the Palestinians are unable to bear anymore. And the strange thing is that it was expected, but at the same time surprising to the world that the Palestinians have rejected all the occupation, all its forms, even this includes the Palestinians within 1948 occupied Palestine, Jaffa, Haifa, and other cities. So for the first time in the Palestinian history, we are, although we are suffering the Palestinian division, but the Palestinians are witnessing a state of unity that we have been missing since a long time. And in one voice, we rejected all the occupation with all its forms. And the conflict that happened in Gaza before the eyes of the world across 11 days, on this day, Israel was forced, and we have to say it, yes, Israel was forced to accept ceasefire, or it's not a ceasefire, in fact, to stop its aggression against unarmed people that is resisting with simple resources in defending itself and dignity, people, houses, land, houses, our lives, and looking for a dignified life for Palestinians. Across 11 days, the Israeli bombardment included all different warfare, F-16s, 60 F-16s at the same time, bombing the most densely populated spots in the world. 2 million people, Palestinians, living in less than 360 square kilometers. So we know this is the most densely populated area in the world. Israel is using artillery and ships and air force. This is more than a war crime. It has to be documented as war crime. And within these 11 days, they killed 260 Palestinians, of which is important, more than 70 children were killed, more than 40 women, and the rest were civilian people, and more than 1,900 injured people suffering serious injuries because the F-16 war jets, they do not make simple injuries. And we have thousands of houses that were demolished. With all of this suffering, today the Palestinians are unified more than ever. The Palestinians now have a force and a very unique state of unity, saying that enough of this occupation, we got enough of this. This occupation is not accepted, and for the last time, and we are ready to pay whatever it takes of the price to end this dirty occupation and this dirty state to finish, for the Palestinians to enjoy their right to dignity in life, and the world is expected to raise its voice because the issue of occupation is not limited to the Palestinians alone. This is an aggression, an attack, a violation to the human dignity, and there is a need to support Palestinian humans because we are defending our humanity that we share with all the free world. The situation today is Friday. Before 1 or 2 hours, there are events across the West Bank. The Israelis, again, they stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque and they opened fire and sprayed and tear gas at the Muslim believers there. And but nonetheless, this will not stop the Palestinians saying that they will not to stop them. Uh, I just wanted to make sure that they stopped the bombing, but in Al-Aqsa, they stopped bombing of Gaza Strip, but in the West Bank, they continue, the Israeli occupation continue. There are confrontations with the occupation across the West Bank, including at Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the root of all events. Hopefully, this will be better and will improve. And as for agricultural work, we have time, especially that if you can show us this unity and how honestly the new case before 2 months or 3 months, the Palestinians were feeling depressed and because that they were fighting alone, such a strong country. At the same time, the Palestinians were accused of being terrorists, and the UAWC was accused of helping the Palestinian farmers. Because if we protect the Palestinian land from confiscation, then this is a great step towards protecting the land for the longest period of time. The conflict, simply put, which many countries do not believe, we are facing gangs of settlers coming to any land in Palestine and take it over by force, simply, or to take any house in Jerusalem or Hebron, and simply they kick the residents outside and stay in their place. No one in the world can imagine someone, stranger, coming to your land or house to kick you off and to stay in your house. And we saw hundreds of videos documenting these aggressions and theft of Palestinian property without any legal justification or any protection. The Israeli racist courts consolidate and legislate this violation and give them this land. This increase in these violations made the Palestinians to say enough of this. We at the Union of Agricultural Work Committees made us support a large number of projects with the main objective that is consolidate the resilience of Palestinians in their and steadfastness in their land, mostly the so-called sea area, because unfortunately after Oslo, the Palestinians accepted to go into negotiations to get their rights through negotiations, and this proved as a failure. After 25 years, the settlement doubled 4 times in the West Bank. Oslo started in 1991 and they signed in 1993. We had 120 to 150,000 settlers now. In the West Bank and Jerusalem, we have around 800,000 Israeli settlers under this peace or negotiation time. The settlers and settlement doubled 4 or 5 times in 25 years. In the last 11 days, the Palestinian achievements in these 11 days at the internal situation and Palestinian unity and improving the Palestinian awareness that Israel targeted to tarnish across the last decades by creating thousands of internal crises and making a situation that prevents Palestinian youth. It caused thousands of problems for Palestinians and also increased crime within Palestinians. And Palestinians were not safe in their own houses, and Israel armed gangs that belong to the Israeli occupation, in addition to the bad economic situation. So the Palestinians were simply wanting to live. And in Gaza, across 16 years of blockade, which has never happened since hundreds of years, Gaza is under a blockade where nothing is allowed to enter. It's not allowed without the Israeli consent. We have a very long list of thousands or hundreds of items, of food items and other items that are prohibited from entry. During the COVID-19, the vaccines were not allowed, and those who were vaccinated in Palestine are in thousands, only maybe less than 20,000. All the vaccines had to wait at the crossings that are controlled and manned by the Israelis. And this has to do with the sovereignty. Sovereignty is when you have your control over your natural resources, and the Palestinians, they don't have any control over these resources. Israel is controlling air and sky and land. In Gaza, on daily basis, women and children die because they don't have access to medical treatment. They cannot go to Egypt or to the West Bank. There is no contiguity between West Bank and Gaza. The issue of poverty and starvation, with more than 70% of unemployment rate. All of them are totally separated from the war in Gaza, and the West Bank, 30% unemployment rate. Poverty rate is very high in Gaza. After the last war, maybe it's going to be around 80% of people will be below the poverty line. Basic commodities are not allowed. Land, for instance, yesterday we were speaking with our colleagues in Gaza and West Bank. In Gaza, a large number of farmers were killed. Our partner farmers, they were killed. Imagine the farmers that we work with them on daily basis, they were killed. And this was part of the Israeli bombing list. And they bombed 500 such targets in Gaza. And then they accused us of terrorism. We have a large number of farmers who were killed. And there are hundreds of houses for farmers and large parts of land that were cultivated as a source of food. In sovereignty, the principles of sovereignty over the food is the most, a very clear one. The agricultural land that is close to the borderline, which are most of the time very dangerous because the Israeli army besieges these areas. This land is cultivated, and now we have a new season that farmers need to start harvesting their land and cultivate it. Gaza produces 70% of its food internally. So their ability to sustain their food security and to access the market is very high in spite of the siege, and this is reflected in practicing food sovereignty. Unfortunately, this land has been destroyed, and the occupation deliberately bombed agricultural land because they understand that this land is the source of steadfastness for the upcoming time. So they want to impoverish people more and to starve them more and more. So they bombed large areas. And when we speak about also, sorry for interrupting you, we have voices. And speaking of the upcoming stage, you spoke about
so we have now
Sousan.
Okay, we're going to talk about the role of the youth and the support of the youth and having the youth back to work with us inland. And we're going to focus in the future on the youth. We have to. So I would like, first of all, to thank you. Thank you very much for the information that you've given and the bitter truth that we've just learned about Palestine that's coming out of the people of Palestine. from the free people of Palestine, whether they've accepted this reality or not. AGC is here and it's in solidarity with you and with our global family.
Of Palestine, the future.
We're talking about the next phase.
I would love to hear from the youth. I would love
يمكن ديما
what the opinion of working with UAWC. احكي لنا من وجهة نظر الشباب مع الحاصل.
So please tell us from the perspective of the youth regarding what's happening now in Palestine and the resilience of UAWC and the way it's helping the youth. Can you tell us more about the perspective of the youth and of the young farmers in Palestine? Okay, thank you, Dima, and thank you, AGC, for this event. And I thank, well, actually, Fuad has captured it all about the current situation, about what's happening. There's nothing to really describe the brutality of the situation in Palestine. This is a saying that was said by the former Israeli Prime Minister, who said that the elderly die and the young regain. So this is what they're trying to implement, to continue what was planted by their ancestors. But what have happened lately has proved that we don't have a real division amongst ourselves as Palestinians. We don't have this crisis to identify our identity. Young Palestinians, whether inside the 1948 lands or everywhere in Palestine, they're just pure Palestinians. They have one sole identity. Their goal is unified, which is to liberate this land. And what's now happening on social media, and the question is this generation that is going to lead to liberation and freedom, because they're very optimistic about the future and about getting our freedom. Well, the youth are always targeted, especially from the Israeli occupation. As Fuad has mentioned, the youth in the 1948 lands are trying to be suffocated by big problems imposed to them by the Israelis to make them, oblige them to forget their Palestinian identity. We in UAWC, we're very aware of this goal of the Israelis, and that the youth are targeted. So that's why we think of and target students and school students and universities. We like to work with them, to have them in any intervention or project that we conduct, to be a very important part of our strategy. And UAWC is working on supporting the youth in many projects, especially economic empowerment, and in order to empower their resilience and to raise their capacities, projects of vocational training, especially that we work also with children. I work with the youth through in many workshops with the school students. There are theoretical trainings and then field training, practical ones. So we always feel when we work with children that they are so they have this unprecedented enthusiasm for growing and farming, especially when we tell them when we explain to them about the types of seeds and we work with. And I feel that there is this void that we have, that our curricula is or our curriculum is lacking. So children love to feel more in touch with their land. That's why we conduct these agricultural activities. We give them information and about seeds, and we also reiterate that these seeds also confirm our identity and our relation to this land. So we need to plant it, to take care of it, to grow it, and because. And so we try to produce our seeds by ourselves, and this is the message we try to convey to children of schools. And this is very important because, as I mentioned, they have this very big enthusiasm to be part of all this.
نسمع
Well, although it's very difficult
الاضطهاد والظلم
to hear about this oppression and aggression, as much it's so comforting to and very honorable to see what you're doing, to feel this passion, this resistance. I thank you very much. And please see, just check the comments and see the solidarity with the Palestinians, the Palestinian farmers from all over the world. And now we will go to the second part to take a deeper look about the UAC. It was founded, UAC was founded in 1986.
The success for
you must stick to one language, please.
So before we go and ask Dua to share with us the success story, we will play a video to give you just a glimpse of the seed banking of the UAC.
منذ عام 2003 تم إكثار وتحسين 40 صنفاً من الخضروات والمحاصيل الحقلية والحبوب البلدية، حيث يتم حفظ الأصول الوراثية لهذه الأصناف في بنك البذور وفقاً لآليات الحفظ المناسبة، ويتم ذلك من خلال حفظ وتجديد وأحياء البذور البلدية في الضفة الغربية وحفظ المعرفة التراثية المرتبطة بها والانتفاع بمصادرها الوراثية النباتية وتوثيق هذه المصادر.
بنك البذور خلال ال3 سنوات الماضية غطى ما يقارب 1000 عائلة، وفر لهم الاحتياج البذري، وتم زراعة 5000 دونم بعلا من البذور البلدية. التعامل مع المزارعين عن بعد جغرافيا بيكون في أحيانا في صعوبة لوصول المزارع للبنك البذور نفسه كمبنى، فتعامل من خلال طواقم اتحاد لجان عمل الزراعة المنتشرة بالضفة الغربية من تقديم طلبات استفادة واستلام بذور بيسهل على المزارع هذه المسافة والتوزع الجغرافي الموجود.
يهدف البنك لإكثار البذور وتحسينها، لذلك فقد خصص وحدات الإكثار حيث تتم زراعة البذور في مواقع مختلفة بينياً وبكميات كافية لكي يتم تزويد البنك بما يلزمه منها، وتحديداً تلك التي تقل كمياتها، بالإضافة إلى إكثار الأصناف التي توزع على المستفيدين خلال الموسم الزراعي، ويتم متابعة المحاصيل طوال فترة نموها وانتخاب النباتات التي تحمل الصفات المطلوبة، وبعضها يتم تلقيحها يدوياً للحفاظ على نقاوتها.
تم تطوير وحدة إكثار وحدات الإكثار بشكل كامل خلال ال10 سنوات المنصرمة، بحيث يتم التعامل مع المزارعين بشكل مباشر، وأيضا يتم إنتاج وإكثار البذور البلدية داخل وحدات خاصة. بنحسن أصناف بذور الخضروات الشتوية بحيث أنها بتكون أحيانا بحاجة لعمليات الري خلال توقف أو تذبذب هطول الأمطار خلال الموسم الشتوي. وهناك وحدات الإكثار الخاصة بإكثار وتحسين البذور الصيفية، هاي بيتم التعامل مباشرة خلال العمل مع المزارعين ومن خلال العمل داخل وحدات الإكثار اللي تدار تحت إشراف بنك البذور.
أنا كنت أخذ جميع أنواع البذور كميات قليلة جداً، وكنت أزرعها وأسوي بذور كميات، يعني يأخذوا مني بذور وأنا أعطيهم بذور. عبين ما توسعت البذور عندي وصرت أسوي كميات للاتحاد لجان العمل الزراعي. زراعتنا كانت بدائية، كنا على حواض نزرع، بس لما تعرفت على اتحاد لجان العمل الزراعي شجعونا على البذور البلدية. أنا بقيت يعني زارع تقريبا دنم يعني للدار. لما تعرفت على اتحاد لجان العمل الزراعي شجعوني، صرت أزرع حوالي 5-6 دنومات، الرزقة الوحيدة تبعتنا من الزراعة.
Wow. I want to take a quick moment just to apologize that for jumping between languages to our interpreters who are struggling with me. So I will stick to English moving forward. Um, just to keep mindful of the translators and also in my level of comfort in asking these questions. We've seen different aspects of this occupation, of what this occupation does, crippling the effort of strength. As we heard from Sausan, moving forward, UAC is rising. Still, UAC is resisting. There is many successes that we will be hearing about here for this section. We have Duran and Carlos, as each of them they will introduce themselves and tell us from their perspective. We will start with Duran. Please share your success with UAC. Sausan, Dua, please.
بداية بشكر الAGC على
First
الفرصة
of all, I'd like to thank AGC for this beautiful opportunity to be one of the speakers in this podcast. And I would like to start with saying that every Palestinian are resisting. Every Palestinian is resisting, but in it's his or her own way. It's not in resistance is not only about throwing stones or using arms. It's about art, music, folklore, studying. It's in agriculture as well. So Palestinians, wherever they are, they can resist in whichever way, and this is the reality that exists now. OAC and we resist in maintaining our preserving our cultural and agricultural culture, and we are trying to follow the ways of agriculture that was used previously, and also to protect our the main original authentic seeds and produce. The bank of seeds has origins, and now I will present the achievements of the bank of seeds throughout the past 10 years, and we will see in numbers how did it impact the agricultural sector in Palestine. The local bank seeds throughout the past 10 years, since it was founded in 2010 until 2020, which was a different year because of the pandemic, it was one of the main keys that helped us to outreach many places, many areas that we didn't anticipate to outreach to. So one of the main roles is to preserve, collect, and protect indigenous seeds. Now it's preserving around 150 authentic plants that belongs to 12 plant families. So these it has medical herbs and other types of herbs. There are other types these are some of the types that we're working on growing, and most of these plants aren't preserved because they're only plants, but they're also connected to our heritage, to our music, our folklore, our dress code. So agriculture is related to every detail in our Palestinian homes. And here, one of the types that the local bank seed has contributed and has actually succeeded in giving to the farmers is the radish, which is it has this long shape. Also, local tomatoes and others. So every species is different in its way. It's unique in its all smell way with in Palestine. When we talk about local tomatoes, it's different. It's distinguished. It's smell. It's taste. It's not like it has chemicals within. It's not industrialized. It's just local. It's unauthentic, because now we know around the world it's agriculture is now industrial. It lost the spirit. So these local spirits help us in regaining this culture. Same also for the aubergines, these local bacteria aubergines from Batir village, because it's from originally grown in Batir. Next to Bethlehem. So all seeds have origins and origins in areas. Same also for zucchini, for melons, and sun seeds and okra. So all these is so. The second objective would be that is not to keep them in the bag, but to revive them, to try to produce amounts of them so that they would be distributed around Palestine and even throughout the world. So these are some of the achievements that we were to preserve safe amounts of these species, like 50 species, as I've mentioned. And so all these pictures are from the bank, local banks, seeds bank in the West Bank, and this is part of our produce. The bank seeds had a different idea. It's not about to just use only the authentic, to preserve the authentic in a modern way. So that's why we have different types. We have different fertility ways. So every species has its own specificity in the way in growing it without affecting its type and its nature. And even growing on roofs. So this is one of the new techniques that we were able to use. It's like propagation. And the third achievement is that we wanted to have a contribution to farmers to gain the sovereignty over seeds, which is the first step for a sovereignty over food. Without us, because if we didn't have our own seeds, we won't be able to control this. So we were keen to have sovereignty over our seeds. So these were some of the other achievements that we were able to cover 1,066 families in the West Bank, and then 6,000 families were able to grow around 1,227.5 hectares. Which, when what could be added is that these are added value. These areas that were planted were bare, weren't used, so they were given to farmers, and without need to irrigating water. So 1,227.5 hectares. These as added areas of land that so it's a green coverage that was done in Palestine. So which would provide food for families and would secure them food-wise, and then also to be sold. So it's another added income to Palestinian families, in addition to having increasing the greenery and that would combat the climate change. The local bank seed has a very important role throughout the world to preserve these seeds and to document about them. However, in our work in UAWC, we have an additional value. It's like we have an educational center for Palestinian community, as Sausan has just mentioned. The local seeds bank has targeted the youth and the children in order to raise their awareness about the agricultural or the the cultural agriculture. Regretfully, there's a gap from those older generation and the children and the youth now, where there's a big transformation in the Palestinian youth in general towards trends of industrial change and migration and so on. So having children back, recruiting children back to impact them, to gain their interest about agriculture and to, how their grandparents used to grow and plant. It regained this new information for them. And as Susan said, they showed passion to learn more and to plan themselves and to feel the soil and the dirt in themselves in their hands. So this is what's new in this new generation, which is now we feel that they have a connection to the land and to the history, to their old history, because one who doesn't really has or does not have a sense of belonging to history won't thrive. So the idea of transferring knowledge from one generation to another was in different ways and different dimensions through publications that were in line with the age group, schools or master's students or children in younger generation. So these publications were adapted to the age group that was targeted, how to grow, how to handle seed. We also conducted theoretical workshops in schools and universities. And we've noted that we were able to give practical trainings, not only to give only lectures and theory, just to be, we wanted to make them feel in practice, what is it that we're talking about. So through these works in Palestine. These are some of the pictures with our with groups that we've targeted from our students. One of the main objectives that UAWC or the local bank seeds target is to increase the green cover. There are some projects that we've done. So how can we contribute to increasing the green cover? One of the strategies that we would use in combating the climate change in Palestine, especially that Palestine is really suffering from this climate change and drought. So one of the main solutions is to increase the green cover and how to plant seeds and gardens and to use different irrigation systems in order to increase the livelihood in these drought areas. And also other important objective that we UAWC have is, and the local bank seeds, is to protect the biodiversity. We are focused on plants and produce and in order to cover also medical plants or and those that are not really well kept. One of the main basics that we strive to work on is not to use chemicals and not to use genetically modified substances, whether pesticides or fertilizers, or and to substitute them by organic compost. And here we see a picture of a natural gas unit where we can utilize the organic waste in order to come out with new compost. In addition to management resources that we can have, which is like water resources. We face a big problem with the scarcity of water, and this is one of the main problems that we face in agriculture in West Bank and Gaza. Also to try to utilize or make best use of the renewable energy and solar energy. And that's it. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, translators. I have to say this in Arabic. MashaAllah, ya'tikum alf afia.
You did great.
Thank you so this is fantastic work. Again, you are talking solidarity from Kenya, from Canada, Namibia, New York, the UK, Puerto Rico. It's all here, and this is a fantastic opportunity to bring in Carlos Compañero. If you can ask Josh to bring Carlos to the panel here as well. And I'd like to ask, because there is solidarity, because we're seeing this solidarity, where else are we seeing similar struggles in the world?
Thank you.
Because as we heard, Fuad, this is not just about Palestine.
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to our growing culture for the invitation to be part of this very important event, and also to express my eternal affection to my brothers and sisters from UAWC, the Union of Agriculture Workers Committees, that for the past 35 years have been, struggling to exert the peasant rights and the right of people to live in their own land. And so I'm very happy to be here, and also very happy to see Doha, with that much progress that is happening in the sacred land of Palestine with the seed banks. Right now, I'm speaking from El Paso, Texas, the border from United States and Mexico. I'm in the American side, but from my window, if I look through my window south, I can see the landscape of Juarez, Mexico, the other side of the border. And I can also see the wall built first by George W. Bush, and then continue to be built by Obama, and that continue to grow, to increase the border wall that separates us from Mexico. This border wall was built by many corporations friendly to the government, including Elbit Systems, that was involved in the building of the wall of apartheid in the West Bank, and also in creating the strategy to divide people. The strategy is so-called of securing the borders to control people. So I have many affection for my sisters and brothers of Palestine. Every day when I see from my window, I see the border that divides United States and Mexico, and my heart goes to Palestine, to the sacred land of Palestine. So I'm very grateful, and it's an honor for me to be here. I like to read a paragraph from the final declaration of the International Conference Food Sovereignty, Colonies and Borders that took place in Ramallah in 2019, because this paragraph, these words, symbolize the special relationship that we have as border agriculture workers, but also as La Via Campesina, of which I'm a member of the International Coordinating Committee. And I also coordinate with other compañeras and compañeros of the International Committee on Migration and Wage Workers. So let me read this paragraph, because it will always remind me of the affection and the relationship of solidarity that we have with UAWC and with the people of Palestine. Long live the struggles of the peasants. Long live the struggles of the agricultural workers. We are with you until social economic justice for all peasants, fisher folks, and agricultural workers becomes a reality. May we succeed in protecting the rights of peasants and rural workers all over the world, as well as in our respective countries, in the Arab world, and especially in our beloved Palestine. So this paragraph symbolizes, what, our connection to Palestine, our deep connection to Palestine. La Vía Campesina is an international movement that brings together hundreds of millions of peasants, rural workers, migrants, landless people, indigenous, fisher folks, rural youth, and women, among other fighters for food sovereignty and peasant rights. We have been accompanying the struggle of the Palestinian people since the first years of the illegal occupation by the criminal state of Israel. We are committed because this is a struggle for social justice and dignity of the people. We got to know the Palestinian reality year after year through numerous delegations to the occupied territory. And then in 2013, the Union of Agricultural Workers Committee became members of La Vía Campesina. Since then, its rural workers in Ramallah, the seed guardians in Hebron, and fishermen in Gaza, among others, have made very important contributions to La Vía Campesina's peasant internationalism, helping to build our Declaration on Peasant Rights and consolidate our movement throughout the Arab world. In delegation after delegation to the sacred land of Palestine, we have seen with our own eyes the cruel illegality of the Israeli colonial states, its massacres in Gaza and the West Bank, the demolition of schools, hospitals, and homes, the building of walls and expansion of illegal settlements, the theft of water, land, and territories. But we have also accompanied the Palestinian people in their dignified management or their religious crops, their olive groves with more than 500 years of planting, their schools and community centers where historical consciousness is formed in the Palestinian youth, and the international conference organized to achieve true food sovereignty for Palestine and all other struggling peoples. The struggle for food sovereignty all over the world, carried out by La Vía Campesina members, is very important. But over the years, we have to realize that the fate of the struggle of Palestinian people against the illegal occupation of their sacred land will be the one deciding whether we win this fight all over the world or not. So for us today, it's very important to tell everybody all over the world that the real solidarity, genuine solidarity with Palestine, and solidarity not only with words, but more important, with actions, cannot wait any longer. The fate of everybody seeking a different kind of society, a different world where our people can live in peace, with our young youth can achieve their dreams, where we can continue working with Mother Earth, where we can continue producing food to feed our families, our communities, everybody, while at the same time protect the integrity of nature, which is the most important elements to accomplish food sovereignty. So I like to say something that it comes from my own experience. I have been in Palestine in several occasions. The last time, as in the previous visits, I went to visit with my compañera Rosemary, we went to visit the seeds bank. Doha gave us a really good presentation, and we understood the importance of the seed banks. Because after all, what are the meaning of seeds? What are seeds? It's not only something that you put in the soil and produce food. Seeds is the patrimony of humanity. Seeds is our culture, is our history, is our identity as human beings, is our identity of different cultures, of different forms and ways of being ourselves. It's our connection to nature, you know. So seeds is very important for us. Is, you know, what allows us, you know, to live and to realize our dreams and our culture, history. The seeds connect us to our ancestors, to our fathers, to our grandfathers, to many generations that took care of the land in order to produce the food needed by families and communities. Today, the struggle is to protect our seeds, and UWAC is doing a great job. You know, I really admire the efforts of UWAC in a situation, in a very explosive situation of daily aggressions, of, you know, intensification of the illegal taking over of sacred land. You know, the efforts of UWAC are very important. We cannot continue to allow corporations take over our seeds. If they take over our seeds, they will be deciding what kind of food we eat. They will be deciding whether who eats or not. You know, today, you know, millions of people are suffering hunger. Even in United States, people are suffering hunger, especially as a result of the past year and a half of living under the pandemic crisis. So what I can say is that we fully support, as Via Campesina, our sisters and brothers of UWAC. And we also make a compromise to continue fighting against the illegal occupation from the criminal state of Israel. And let's not forget that we live in other countries, but our countries is also responsible to what's going on in Palestine. We remember that, you know, Canada and United States continue to sell weapons to Israel that are used against the women, the children, the elderly in Palestine. The selling of weapons to Israel is also a violation of our internal policies that mandates that we cannot sell weapons to other countries to commit crimes against humanity or to continue to violate human rights. So today, I'm here to express my most sincere solidarity with Palestine, the people of Palestine, especially with my sisters and brothers of UWAC, and very grateful to a growing culture for including me in the invitation to be part of this conversation. And Fuad, compañero Fuad, you have done a very important update of the situation in Palestine, especially for us living in the north, in these so-called developed countries, where we now have a post-truth culture with, you know, a lot of misinformation is going on. So I invite everybody connected to this conversation to seek the truth, to connect with UWAC and the Palestinian people who are these days fighting a very decisive battle that will impact human rights, that will impact communities all over the place. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Carlos, thank you so much for bringing in this perspective. And before we go hear from the. I do want to ask for 1 minute because I want to for participants in one moment, in 1 minute. What does global solidarity that Carlos was just showing meant to Palestinians specifically? What does this mean to Palestinians? 1 minute.
هحاول بدقيقة. مشاركة قصصنا.
I will try in a minute to share our dreams, our stories, and to give the namings, the true namings of everything is one of the main things that we found in this solidarity in the local bank seeds is giving names to seeds, their original names. So this is preserving our history, remembering our history, and looking forward to our future. This is the best solidarity that we can find from throughout the world. Also, the local bank seeds is now on a very high level in having the types of seeds. It's very developed, it's very updated. So, and this is because of the real supporters, whether financial support or psychological, exchanging experience and stories. So their solidarity when we were in the global conference that was in 2009, we found a big support from them in order to continue this work to thrive for more and more. So we're keen that our voice make it to the farthest that it can be. So this is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. This is so important. And as we said, we have, and it's so important to emphasize this message. Thank you. I would like to transition stage next part of this conference. Inviting Marlene, who I will introduce herself and share with us. Thank you so much, Marlene, for joining us. Please tell us research. I won't be able to. Please.
Thank you, Dima, and yeah, thank you for A Growing Culture for organizing this incredible event, and to UAC for the invitation and solidarity with everyone in Palestine right now. So I'm a PhD researcher at Cosmos University, and I had a chance to visit UAC Seed Bank in the summer of 2019 as part of my research on seed banking practices and questions of sovereignty and agroecological futures. And what I found really, really striking in the work, an incredible work that the UAC Seed Bank is doing, is that it's really about the preservation and cultivation of relationships of the farmers to the land and to the plants they're cultivating, but also to cultural heritage and self-determination. And in keeping these relationships alive, UAC cultivates resilience and resistance. So when I visited the seed bank in 2019, I was initially surprised that the large seed storage containers were almost empty. But I learned that most seeds pass through the seed bank in line with the rhythms of the growing seasons, and that at the end of the summer, the containers fill up to only then be redistributed to hundreds of beneficiaries for the next season. And I was told that in many ways, the seed bank is located with the farmers in the fields. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. So some of the famous seed banks that I visited, such as the Svalbard Global Seed Vault in the Arctic or the Millennium Seed Bank at Kew in the UK, they accumulate crops and wild plants in order to bank them for indefinite periods of time, often for sort of potential future ecological catastrophe. But what UAWC Seed Bank does is really different, as we've heard today. It's about flows and the distribution and sharing of seeds in a way that's ongoing and keeping this living relationship between seeds, land, and water intact, as well as supporting those who have cared for and cultivated the seeds for generations. And in this way, we can think of UAWC Seed Bank as a practice of care and resistance in a context that threatens erasure of cultural heritage and of being able to imagine a future. So it's not at all about freezing away genetic diversity to improve agro-industrial crops, as many other seed banks do, but about seed sovereignty that is alive in the present right now and as part of a larger struggle towards Palestinian sovereignty. And the seed bank thus actively changes the reality on the ground through the sharing of seeds, but also much wider projects like UAWC's land reclamation project and some of the support groups. And I've seen the really powerful impact of that work. And something that I wanted to highlight is that I think what really struck me is that this resilience and the resistance is also found in learning from the plants. So imagine crops that can grow in the hot and dry climate of Palestinian summers without any irrigation. The rain-fed varieties in UAWC Seed Bank are incredibly resilient. And Doha told me in a conversation that learning from these rain-fed plants was also a really important lesson in learning how they managed to tap deep into the ground and to access water and survive. And these crops flourish, and despite the Israeli control of water resources, which means that irrigation is often not possible and water catchment from rain is not allowed. So to sum up, I think what shapes UAWC Seed Bank and its fight for sovereignty in a really unique way is this combination of scientific research on and learning from indigenous Palestinian plants, alongside the practical support of farmers and the deep respect for their knowledges and relationships with the plants. And for those of us who are not in Palestine, I wanted to briefly think about how we can support UAWC's work remotely. And I think one way of doing that is by talking about how important it is and making it visible, and by taking it seriously as a form of nonviolent resistance and self-determination, by not detaching agriculture from culture, but considering the seed bank as a cultivation of both cultural pasts and cultural futures, and by supporting larger movements like La Via Campesina. And I think crucially what this conversation shows today as well, by giving Palestinian organizations a platform to share their lived experiences. And in this vein, also again, a huge thank you to A Growing Culture for organizing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marlene. This such a powerful reminder. And we're seeing in the comments, it sounds like those seeds are as resilient as the people, indeed. And now we hear from one of these resilient people, resilient farmers, Hajj Abdullah Sha'rawi, who is joining us. And I would like to ask him to share with us, to share his truth as a farmer, Palestinian farmer. What are the challenges? What is the success? And how has OAWC helped?
أهلا وسهلا بكم. السلام عليكم.
Welcome to you. Assalamu alaikum. And thank you for every and each one of you who organized this event. And I would like to take this opportunity to be with you and to salute you all. So,
نسمعينك حاج عبد الله اتفضل.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
So, assalamu alaikum again. I thank you And thanks for each and every one of you. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you, and I thank you for this nice gesture to be with you. My experience with UAC is a very nice experience.
تسمعوني؟
كمل تفضل. UAC is not a terrorist organization. It works with seeds. They provide to us all what they can from expertise to help and seeds, and they visit farms of vegetables, and they select the best species that we can use in the future, and they document by taking pictures in the field in order to confirm what are the best species to be reused again. So, and they're using best practices on all types of seeds that are best seeds, and making the best selections. They also select all types of seeds, like these types of seeds like chickpeas and so on, beans and grains. And Mr. Sayal Al-Atauna and supervisors, agricultural supervisors, they visit us at least once a year. And I meet with them, I consult with them until all know about and learn about the best species, best the types of grains to be used now and in the future. And every time we select the best type of seeds and grains. My message to farmers is to work hard to select the best types of seeds and grains. At the same time, to make use of the experience of the agricultural engineers and experts in this field. The challenges and the problems that a Palestinian farmer encounters is like cutting trees, burning trees, as happened in Salfit and Jenin, in Salfit, Yatta, Jenin. So cutting trees and also scarcity of water and not allowing farmers to dig wells to extract water like artisan wells. So scarcity of water is a big problem that we encounter every year for the past 4 years, because after March, we face a scarcity of water. We don't have water to irrigate. And we are banned to use or dig wells, deep wells, because they're worried about losing the sources of water. We also encounter problems like pests.
يعطيك العافية حج. Thank you so much.
Agricultural pests.
Sharing this with us. It's so important to see you, to hear you, to remind people, to have a voice, to have the experience. And thank you for your message. I really appreciate you. And I want to now take it from a generation that has experienced this over the years to the part of the future now. And I would like to ask Aminah, Sister Aminah, to join us, a young Palestinian farmer, to come and share her experience as a young farmer Seeding sovereignty, seeding power, seeding resilience. Please tell us your message, tell us your experience, tell us what you want to know as a young Palestinian woman.
يعطيكم العافية وأهلا وسهلا فيكم.
Thank you very much and welcome to you. Anna, I thank you for having me in such a meeting, and we won't forget that we are farmers of, but we're called farmers of resilience because we plant these local seeds, and as Hajj Abdullah had said, we and Abdullah, we're not far from each other in geographically, but it's the first time that I know that he uses the local seeds for his produce. However, if I want to share with you what do you want me to say, that my experience about my experience with UWAC or about the role of youth? Had ever you want to say. We are bringing, AGC is only bringing in a global family. You tell us what you want to say. Your truth. We are here to learn. Please.
أنا عندي ما بترجمش للعربي، فأخذ كنت على اللابتوب بس للأسف أخذوا جوزي، فعود احكي بالعربي.
Oh, she can't hear the translation, by the way. She doesn't have the option. So please speak in Arabic. Yes, please. Yes.
هاد مكانك. احنا هون نسمع، نتعلم، نحاول نستوعب عشان نوصل الرسالة على قد ما احنا نقدر. فاللي بدك اياه تحكيه احكيه. مشوارك مع الزراعة، مشوارك مع الاتحاد، كشابة، دور الشباب، اللي بدك اياه تحكيه تفضلي. احنا هون نتعلم. شكرا.
تمام ماشي. احنا دورنا مع
So our role with the bank seeds, first of all, we were 10 women who were using these seeds, or we were provided with these seeds. We live next to a settlement, and there's a checkpoint at the entrance of our village. So and they always interrupt us, whether we work in agriculture or otherwise, and especially they always stop the youth so my experience in agriculture and in local, especially for young women with seeds especially, it has empowered them economically and socially and culturally. It gave us this incentive that we as women, we can work in different areas, not only that our work would be limited to our own growing plants in our garden, local garden. Now we grow dunums, like 4 or 5 dunums by these local seeds, and we don't use any chemicals in as pesticides. We use only organics and natural composts. We've taken many trainings with the UWAC in this regard. We've learned a lot and so I can say that at the beginning, when we used to face problems, when we wanted to grow these local seeds or to just get some information, so those who we used to approach used to make to exploit this request. They would make us pay a lot and so on. So when we approached the UWAC and we dealt with the local bag seeds, we got the seeds for free and we planted them. And some did not really believe that these local seeds would be productive and will have a good produce, because we have this culture that local seeds are not the best. But actually, if we've used these local seeds in the best way possible, we'll get the best produce, especially and health-wise we're talking about, because now we always look for health products, and because we don't use chemicals or pesticides, and we know the origin of these seeds.
So throughout our experience now, we ask the old ladies and old women in our village, how did you use to plant seeds? How did you use to preserve them? What are the best seasons for planting such seeds? For instance, our area is very famous for planting sesame and sumac. I've been living in Rabud for 10 years and I've never seen anybody planting sesame or sumac. So I tried to look for the local seed of these two plants. Sumac, I did find for sumac, but for sesame, I did not find. And also other measures that the occupation practices or impedes our work in agriculture is that we have now the waste stream or the waste flow that is bad to the soil because of the minerals in it. So we tried in more than one way, because I'm a member of the local council. We tried it through the local council and the local government to mitigate this risk that our lands face. So we've worked on different projects with different organizations in order to mitigate this danger, so that we maintain that Rabud be a green area and that is healthy 100%. As for young women who were age 20 or 30, weren't really much keen about being in agriculture. They had other interests. They were because many of our people in the village, they're educated, about 99% they're educated, but however, unemployment rate is so high. So we started visiting them at home and we started encouraging them to plant, and we even took our produce to them and made them taste. Just to encourage them. So the elderly encouraged us and said that, wow, you made us feel like we're young again. That so what is this nice flavor that we're tasting, especially like tomatoes, cucumbers, aubergines, and other types. So I I used to take with me my mother-in-law, my grandmother, to tell us about the songs and rhythms that were then sang. So we used to sing when we were in a. I had some recordings, but the settlers just invaded us one time and took everything. There were seasons where these settlers would come and barge in, and because they say that they have certain occasions where they come in. So there are two denims that we've planted them with wheat, but they've burnt them all, the settlers, and they said, no, it's not us who burnt all this. And now what's new, like a few days ago, and after the aggression on Gaza. So there's an area around 10 dunams that's next to the checkpoint. They burnt all that area, and we asked them, why are you burning all our product? We've planted this the wheat and why did you do this? And they said, no, you did this. So this is the oppression we're facing, and so many of the seeds that we produce just go in vain because of the practice of the settlers and the Israelis, but those who understand what is it, the value of local produce is very important. We at the beginning didn't want to sell in like higher prices, but then they told us, no, it needs to be more expensive than what is in the store. So also we did some festivals at schools just to let them know what is in Rabud, our village. What do we raise their awareness about what we grow, and in order to gain their interest, and in order to empower them economically, to encourage women to work in this, just to recruit them to work in agriculture and not to limit themselves to staying at home. So that was a hard step, and we faced many challenges that we women to go to schools and to do exhibitions just to let people know about this local agriculture. And also we started to preserve these and store these seeds and then to sell them. So when we visited the bank seeds, they taught us how to store and preserve these seeds. So now we store them and we provide them to people, and we and although the pandemic has impacted us a lot, however, it had a positive impact on us, because everybody was locked in, and we started to distribute those seeds to and those who were needy, we just gave them these seeds for free. And we also have our own organic compost, from the waste, domestic. We're about 1,500 people living in Rabud. So these 10 women, we go around the houses and we collect the kitchen waste, and we take them, and then so we would do this compost or this manure, and we then shared with them how important this experience, and most people now follow the same, and they make their own compost. And now we are 50, we turned from 10 women to 50 women. So we were young then, and now although there are some males with us, but we're mostly women. And as we said, women here, we don't have much job opportunities. So local agriculture made a vast change, and of course the changes for the positive, but as for the challenges, and if I want to talk about the challenges that we face, it would take me a whole hour.
Thank you. Thank you. This is just the beginning. I just want to make sure you can hear me when as I am speaking in English, you are able to hear the translation. Everyone is able to hear it. Thank you so much for all you have shared. First of all, I'm hungry now, just hearing all this amazing food, tomatoes, sesame, sumac. Thank you so much. Again, so important to remember the role of the youth, the role of the women, and agriculture. Culture and the guardians of culture are women. There is an Arabic saying, and I will ask Dua to say it as I asked her for the following question, that says a mother is a school. If she is the foundation, you establish a whole nation. So thank you for your effort as a woman, as a young farmer. And Dua, now I would like to ask you,
بس لو سمحتي ممكن أضيف شغلة أخيرة.
Your amazing work. We have heard your tremendous efforts, and we have heard your challenges. Our family is here tuning in, and more will hear it, because we will be sharing it, and I hope everyone tuning in here will take a moment to share this video and tag their friends. What is your message to them? What's the call to action? How can we, as your global family, support you in the work, in the amazing work that you are doing? Please, we'll take 2 minutes as we wrap up. Thank you for those staying with us thus far. I know we are going over time, but this is so important. Dua, please tell us how we can best support you.
احنا كاتحاد لجان عمل زراعي وكمزارعين عاملين في البذور البلديه بنعتبر حالنا حراس للتاريخ الفلسطيني، للتراث الزراعي الفلسطيني. احنا حراس لنحمي المستقبل لاطفالنا وللجيل القادم. اللي بطلبه من اي حدا بيستمع وحابب فعلا انه يساعدنا باي طريقه، بنك البذور وصل للي وصل له حاليا مش مرة واحدة، وصلنا بمراحل وعناء ومشقة وبتحديات كبيرة وإنجازات أكبر إشي أكيد، بس قدرنا نوصل لهون بعدة تطويرات صارت في بنك البذور، من ضمنها تطوير فكرنا، تطوير قدراتنا، مهاراتنا. تعلمنا من كتير ناس حوالين العالم، كانت في كتير قصص نجاح فعلا تعرفنا عليها، منها البسيطة ومنها
that we visited. Some are simple, some are complex, some are difficult to imitate. The idea is that we are always seeking to learn from all the stories around the world, all the successful struggles for women and farmers to work and produce under these difficult circumstances that the world is facing, such as environmental change, its impact, and the occupation that we have. The most important support is to help us to spread our story, to get the word across, to keep exchanging our stories and expertise. The problem is around the world is not limited to Palestine. Occupation is only in Palestine, but the environment change is across the world. Let's learn how to learn from each other, from our successes, exchange success stories, and how we tackle our challenge. This will help us to progress again. Our bank, Seeds Bank, is just a step by UAC, and a step of many other steps we can still further develop to be beneficial for more people and accessible by many others. Hopefully everyone will assist us in this. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for sharing this again, for being here and for all the efforts that you do. For those who have stayed with us and tuned in, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your solidarity. I'll also add that to take an opportunity, if you know anyone who is holding a platform having these conversations, we have put in the comments how to contact UAC. Invite them, nominate that they are spoken, help spread this truth, help remind people that Palestinians are not voiceless, that Palestinian farmers are not voiceless. They have a voice, they have effort, they are doing amazing, amazing work in the face of unimaginable oppression. And Dua, I want to tell you, you said the oppression is just in, the occupation is just in Palestine. Next week is Africa Liberation Week. 25th is Africa Liberation Day. And I present Madiba, Nelson Mandela, who said, we all know too well that our freedom is incomplete without that of Palestine. The occupation may just be on the land, but it is in the heart of all. It is affecting all of us. And we must operate on that basis. We must recognize that and connect these dots. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us. Please, 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 dear friends, dear families tuning in from around the world, keep asking questions. Question everything. Question the narratives that are being put forward. Question how you can help. Question how you can support. It doesn't have to just be financially. Sharing the truth, bearing witness is solidarity, is help, and is responsibility. I thank you all for being here. I want to once again thank our partners, Agroecology Fund, for helping us, for allowing us to continue the support of these movements, peasant movements from around the world, fighting for food sovereignty in the front line of the food sovereignty movements. Unfortunately, we don't have time for question and answer, but this is just the beginning. And it is a reminder that the conversation must continue. Please reach out to our friends and our families, compañeros in Palestine, and see how we can continue the conversation. Thank you so very much for being here. I close in solidarity, in love, and in blessings to everyone who joined us. Please send our love and our solidarity to the people of Palestine, to the land of Palestine, to the olive trees of Palestine, we are with you, we hold you, we are grateful for you. Thank you so much. Please, please, please share this video. Friends at UAC, continue doing the work you do. Thank you so much. Translators, a big, big thank you to you. This would not have been possible without you, especially with me jumping between the languages. Thank you. Have a good day in solidarity. Thank you. Good evening. Peace.